What's up, gang? Welcome back to the channel. As you can probably tell, this video is going to be a little bit different than my usual stuff. Mainly that I am not in a filthy garage and door is not here. The reason for that is I reached out to Austin Archer on Instagram after having a little bit of back and forth, just chatting, sliding into each other's DMs. And I had this idea for a video after I saw he had posted and had talked about his sobriety. I've talked about my sobriety, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to do a little bit of a react kind of video. I know react videos are typically like 20 minutes long. This one's almost an hour. But because I've already done videos about addiction and sobriety in the past that are kind of the same, where I wrote a script and really deconstructed my own sobriety on a public platform, I thought it would be nice to enlist a little bit of help to talk about this specific thing. I had actually written 8 entire pages of a script that had fun bits and jokes and different things in it. And the idea was to, you know, have this conversation with Austin, do a couple of additional things, and then sort of drop them in what my normal video would be. But then we spoke and joked around and got into some really deep stuff for about 2 hours. And I have chopped that down into a much more manageable time for all of you to now watch. I just didn't think we were going to talk as long as we did. And so I didn't really do a great introduction or setup in our video call that we did. So that's why I'm here now. So here is the conversation that we had about Anth Lowther, a former British raver and DJ who's now found sobriety and God, who is a woman, in Bali, of all places. Roll the clip, Johnny. Thank you, Austin, for being on the channel. We're going to talk about a couple of clips from this creator.
First of all, I just want to say I'm thrilled to be here. I'm a big fan of the channel.
You're too kind.
So
you're much too kind.
I have a question before we get going.
Anything.
So, and I'm only asking this because people ask me this, and they've asked me this my whole life. Is Harland Spinks your actual name, or is that a performer name?
It is my real name. It is a blessing and a curse.
It's a great name.
I appreciate it so much. I just use my middle name when I order coffee, because it's either Harley, Harlem, Harold, or Harry.
I'm an actor, and I've been an actor since I was a kid. And as a kid, going into audition rooms and telling them my name is Austin Archer, people are like, "That's not your real name. That's not your real name." And I'm like, that's my name. That's what my parents named me.
I'll be honest. There was a part of me that was like, "There's no way his last name is Archer. Austin Archer. That sounds made up." So this influencer's name is Anth, short for Anthony Lowther. He used to be a UK male model British party boy in like the 2000s. Burnt himself out, and somebody stuck a mic in his face after he found, you know, spirituality. And now he does these podcasts where he talks about his sobriety, but it gets into a place that you might actually have more insight into, having gone through a 12-step program and still sort of attend those. And the cult-like nature that can kind of come out of some of these offshoots, as you put it. I mean, my first introduction to this guy was like, I'm sure you might have seen the clip where he's talking about how we all just have to stop killing each other. And that got a bunch of attention. And through that is where I found out about all of the other things. What I want to do is just play the first clip that kind of went viral.
Everyone on planet Earth, stop killing. And if we do, that will benefit everyone. For 1 year, let's stop killing everyone. No more wars. War's gone instantly then, bro. Probably famine will go instantly then as well. Let's just experiment with it. If it's not doesn't feel good and do good things, let's just get back to it.
I love calling it an experiment. Like, what if we experimented with not killing? And it's like, do you think that that we're all just killing each other and that we've never thought of the idea of what if we didn't? It's like most people out of the 8 billion people alive aren't murdering other people.
It makes it sound like we'll do it for a year. see how it goes. We'll collect all the data. We'll give it to some scientists. They'll parse through it, and then we'll see if we want to do it for another year.
And for people who are comfortable with murdering people, like that's all it is. They just need this guy to be like, hey, we just want to try an experiment. Just for 1 year, we're not going to kill anybody. And they're going to be like, oh, chill. Sounds cool. Yeah.
Does he assume someone who does kill people is going to see this clip and go like, oh, shit. I shouldn't be doing this. Oh,
this
fuck,
this
man.
guy's onto something. I always love how like easy it is for conventionally, and this is going to make me sound like such an incel, but I love how easy it is for conventionally attractive people on the internet to say the most like lukewarm, mediocre,
basic,
bare minimum basic takes, and people to be like, wow, look at that. I mean, look at his chest while he says
never
that.
Thought of that, dude. In the past, when they had like pretty privilege, it was like, oh, people treated them nicer on the street, or they got sort of benefits here and there. Like, but now it's like we have the internet and podcasts, and it's just like, oh no, oh god, that pretty privilege, the ego that came with that originally, is now just like filling that big empty head up even more. To a dangerous point.
Yeah, you can be revered as like a great thinker and a great human philosopher by millions of people if you're hot. Honestly, like I've seen conventionally attractive people who are also smart and have like really, really interesting,
absolutely,
unique, original takes. Of course that exists. But this is a thing where it's like, yeah, there's a lot of this on the internet. There's a lot of people who just like people like to look at, and then they're like, hey, what if like, I don't know. What if like we were nice to people and people are like, yo, that's bars. Like, that's
what if
crazy.
fucking crime didn't exist? What?
We've got a legal system on the planet that's books big and so complicated that I wouldn't understand at all if I read it. I think get rid of that. It's overly complicated. It contradicts itself, and it can be hijacked, where people can get away with murder and stuff like that.
Not untrue.
Just bring it down to one law and one law only and one rule that we can all understand. Can't be complicated and can't be changed, and it's do no harm. Do no harm to yourself. Do no harm to the planet. Do no harm to each other, and do no harm to the animals.
Do not harm. I like that.
That's if we all live by that, mate, we could have world peace.
Other conventionally
that's
hot
world
guy.
Peace in one simple law now.
Yeah. I love this idea that it's like it's overly complicated, so
Right.
let's make it really simple, something that everyone can understand. What he doesn't understand is that we already have sort of universal like societal laws like this, and it is very difficult for people to parse out between cultures what harm means, like what that means, and what is doing harm and what isn't. The fact that he thinks this is a novel idea and B a simple idea shows kind of how simple-minded he is.
I think starting with those basic things offers a level of understanding and comfort to what turn into the followers to kind of eat up whatever else comes out of their mouth. It's like very like, I mean, what we've been talking about is like these very basic, relatively common sense things. Do no harm, don't kill anybody. And you're like, okay, I can get on board with this guy. It's a little, obvious, but let's see what else he's got to say. And every little step forward is a little crazier.
My big fear when I first came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm open, anybody that follows me on the internet, I'm pretty open about this. It's not like my main, I don't talk about it all the time on my channel, but it's like, it's
you're not starting a cult.
But my big fear is that like it started off with sort of vague platitudes that seemed reasonable and useful, and they would say things like, well, you can't seem to get sober, but all of the people in this room have been able to. Do you think it's reasonable to assume that these people know something about sobriety that you don't? And it'd be like, okay, sure. Like, that's a fair enough
assessment,
Yeah, and then I would constantly, but in my brain, I'd be like, but where's it going? Like, when is the when's the other foot gonna drop, and when are you guys gonna tell me about Xenu?
That's why I find Anth so fascinating, because we live in a time where you have to be super vigilant, especially online, about what you're consuming, about misinformation, that anytime someone says something with such confidence, I at least saw these and was like, yeah, when is the other shoe going to drop? And I think it's exacerbated because, obviously, of the internet, that every time one of these guys gets a fucking podcast mic in his face, You got to be like, wait, hang on. Okay, let's take a little look at this a little more before we just jump on board with the whole Anth Lowther train.
And I do want to point out to anyone listening who's maybe struggling with addiction or anything like that, that like you might have just heard in my answer that, or in what I was saying, that I am still going to these meetings. And that's largely because 7 years later, it did not get progressively weirder and more specific and progressively more like, actually, Bill Wilson is God. And Bill Wilson like had a visitation from an angel in 1933 and the angel told,
he's got a bunch of magic rings in the basement.
The stuff that originally got me sober 7 years ago is the same stuff that I use today. And it is relatively like basic stuff. It's simple. It's just like I have a basic, simple kind of program that I still adhere to, and I am, as far as I'm concerned, allowed to be an atheist in that program. I'm allowed to have my own conception of what spirituality means. I don't have to adhere to anyone else's prescribed definition of terminology like prayer,
higher power.
Right. But most of the time, the problem with these things is like it does start off with something. Even, like I was raised in a church that has a missionary program. We send, very famously, young men and women out into the world. You've seen them on the street wearing their little name tags. And we send people to go and evangelize for the Latter-day Saints. The people that they're able to get are people who are like, the story is like, I was minutes away from killing myself,
right?
And somebody knocked on my door, and it was these young men, and I let them in, and they had and they had a message of hope. And usually, it's like it starts off with the basic thing of like, we can offer you community, and we can offer you a place where you can have support. That's all nice and lovely, and I think all religions at their core want to be that. And where they all get in trouble, including this guy, I imagine, as we keep going down the rabbit hole, is as they get more and more specific about their story of who God is, why God is the way God is, the more detached from your humanity you can become.
And reality.
I can make the world a better place. I can make my life better, and I know I can, and I believe I can, and I trust in myself, and I'm a powerful being. I'm a miracle.
Yeah.
I've got billions of miracles operating inside me right now for me to be alive, and for my eyes to work, and my ears to work, and my brain to work, and my heart to work. And I'm living on a beautiful planet with billions of other miracles all around, of all shapes and sizes, with a free will to do what I want, flying through an infinite cosmos full of miracles. Actually, I'm quite blessed. I've got the power within me to make change, and I'm going to do it. And it's going to start right now.
It doesn't feel like speaking in tongues, but it's getting real kind of close to like that stream of consciousness thing, to where I don't really know. I get the overall message. I am a miracle. But the flying through infinite space type speech is where, again, starts to feel a little, what are we doing here?
In the pantheon of influencers who operate in this space and are doing something like what this guy's doing, they definitely get, I would say, a lot worse than this. Like we're definitely,
absolutely.
We're definitely
Absolutely.
starting out on the periphery of like looking at it and going, you can see how you could come across something like this and see it as mostly harmless.
It is a miracle. I just want to know what your definition of miracle is exactly, because these words are what get kind of messy if you don't clearly define what exactly you mean by miracle.
I hear a lot of people bump against AA and 12-step work because they feel like it takes a lot of agency away from the people who are involved in it, that everything they're like, well, I couldn't have done it without the higher power. And I've always, in the entire time I've been in it, I've always been like, well, don't forget to give yourself a little credit for getting in the car and driving and driving to the meeting house. Like you can't say a prayer and be like, God, take me to a meeting. Like, and just
Jesus, take the wheel.
You're going to have to get yourself there, and then you're going to have to keep getting yourself there day after day after day.
Which is what he does, because a lot of his other content is him like working out a lot, doing yoga. Like he does all of these things to make this miracle body of his the miraculous, like chiseled out of stone figure that he's got. It's like that didn't just fucking happen, dude.
Well, and it's interesting because it's almost the inverse of what was happening earlier. So earlier he's saying, let's just simplify it and say do no harm. Well, the problem with that is harm is sort of this relative thing culturally, and and how do you define what that is, and how you have to you get in the weeds pretty quickly with trying to specify and lock down terminology. When I talk about these things, I have my own framework of understanding them, and it is intentionally quite vague. Right. I actually think that they work best as vague terms. Whereas, like the harm thing is like, well, you can't just have this sort of vague law of do no harm.
The consequences of that are much, the stakes are much different.
This stuff where it's like anything that is in the realm of the unknowable, where it's just sort of like you're talking about like the existence of magic, and it's like it's unfalsifiable, and it's like
it's magical thinking at the end of the day.
Like I've experienced a psychic shift in the 7 years that I've been sober, where it was unthinkable for me in my 20s to imagine a time in my life where I didn't think about, and this is going to get kind of heavy, but hopefully it's relatable to some viewers. And you can edit it out if you don't like it.
Hey man, I've gotten heavy on this channel in the past. People seem to fucking love it.
Yeah. It was unthinkable for me to imagine going through a stretch of days without thinking all day long about ending my own life. And like, that's just how I operated. I thought about it 100 times a day, every single day, minimum. And it was I just got used to it. I just got used to like, that's how my brain works. I don't really like myself. I don't really like being alive, but I'm committed to staying here because I don't want to hurt my parents' feelings. And I don't want to like, I don't want like the people who love me to be sad. One of the biggest motivators for me to get sober was people early on told me they had the same thing I had. They were like, yeah, my brain was the exact same way. And they're like, and I don't have that anymore. And I just was like, really? Like, you're telling me I can actually get rid of that? And they were like, I mean, I did. It doesn't happen, at least it didn't for me. It didn't happen like a miraculous beam of light came through the window in my room and my brain was
cured. It
was cured of this like self-hatred or this like anxiety. What I always conceptualized those terms as is like, I really don't believe that it's anything magic. Just like him getting abs, I can look at it and actually track. And
that's thermodynamics, baby. That's all that is.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of this music is copyrighted. I didn't even think about that. It does feel like that thing of like, trying to relive the good old days kind of vibe to a certain extent.
There's an element of performativity to it.
Absolutely.
And I get this as a sober person. I like I like dancing. And what I've realized when I go dancing sober is you don't have the drugs and booze to help you lower your inhibitions and your defenses. So it's a little harder to get into it. But what I've started to realize as a sober person is like, at a club where people are dancing, nobody is looking around the room and judging other people on how they're dancing, and everyone thinks that everyone's looking at them.
Absolutely.
And if there is a person who's looking around the room judging people on how they're dancing, that person sucks. Like that's
and also having a camera person there filming it,
right,
knowing that you're gonna be featured on one of these somewhere, right? Like there isn't a thing of like, oh cool, maybe like I'll be seen, like, there's an element here of being like, look how hot we all are, and look how much fun we have, hot and healthy,
and we're and it's like there's this element of inherently in that of judging people.
Yeah. Hey, also, what's the cover charge, buddy? I want to know how much people are fucking charging just to get in. Also, what's the markup on the things that they're selling on these sober, non-alcoholic drinks? Like, there's so many extra other things about this that's like like, again, if you want to go, fine. Awesome. You want a space that you can dance sober and be around just people that are sober? Great. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying, can we fucking have some other options? Like, can you like tell, like, I think there's a little bit of a responsibility. If you're dealing with something as serious as sobriety and alcoholism and drug abuse, there's a bit of a responsibility to be like, but hey, if this doesn't work for you, you can try this, or this. Like, And there's none of that.
And you are also implicit in this content. You're saying this is better than whatever it is you're doing. And it's like,
we have slow motion video to prove it, asshole.
right. And it's just this thing where I'm like, I don't talk publicly about being sober to lord it over my audience or
Right.
anybody's head. I do it just so that anybody in my audience who might be struggling similar to me feels comfortable reaching out if they want to.
Oh, he's making a stew or something.
Ooh.
I don't know what that one was. As I wrote the script for this, and looked at more and more of these, again, being somebody who is sober, who has struggled with drugs and alcohol in the past, there is still that part of me that's like, but God, I'm glad he's sober. There is a part of me that feels a little bad being like, this guy's a fucking idiot.
So AA loves its sayings, and there's so many different slogans, but one of them that and a lot of them I agree with, but one that I've always been like, shut up, is there's this saying that says, I wouldn't trade my worst day sober for my best day when I was using. And I'm like, apparently you didn't have as much fun as I did, because I've had some pretty good days on drugs. Like,
Yeah, dude.
And there's this sort of attitude with this stuff where it's like, you'll never experience a high like the high you get at one of these sober parties. And I'm just
what's the Kate Moss quote? Nothing feels as good as skinny looks or something,
Exactly.
or as food tastes, whatever the fuck that
nothing
is. It's
tastes
like that.
as good as skinny looks.
Yeah.
And it's a thing where it's like, I don't know, man. I ate a pretty good s'mores cake last night where they toasted the marshmallow right in front of me at a restaurant. It was
1,200 calories.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It was pretty sick. Like, I'll say to young people who are curious about drugs, I'll be like, oh yeah, drugs can be fucking awesome. I'm just like
Yeah, dude.
Like
That's why we do them. When I did ecstasy and I was like, oh, I didn't know I could feel this much.
Right.
Holy shit. And like, that's, again, I think that's part of at least my sort of sober journey is like realizing that like I do yearn for some of those feelings still to this day. I never want to do drugs or alcohol ever again.
Yeah.
Not a single part of me ever wants to pick it up. But there's that lizard brain in there still that's like, but man, that was pretty fucking awesome that one time you felt like that.
Yeah, so I don't want anybody to get it twisted. Like, we're not like promoting, like, go out and do all the drugs. But it's a thing where it's like, I'm not going to lie and tell you that. Because,
Right.
like, I did just obviously talk about how dark my headspace was for the majority of the time that I was drinking and using. Another thing I've learned in sobriety is not everybody uses drugs and alcohol the way that I do. And
Yeah.
I've really realized as a sober person that, like, a lot of people drink normally and like are capable of having a couple drinks. For a lot of people, 3 or 4 drinks is a lot.
Well, it reminds me of like every time you have to go to like the doctor and it has the thing of like, how many alcoholic beverages do you have in a week? And it's like 1 or 2, 3 to 4. And like the max is like 5 or something. And I'm like, bro, I was doing that a day. What are you talking about?
I'm having 5 to 10 a day.
Yeah, I'm worried. Like, am I going to die based on what the max on a doctor's office like check-in list is?
Not everybody is like destroying their life over how good the drugs and alcohol are.
Yeah.
But like I certainly was, but I you know, like I don't need to hold everybody else to my standard.
It's the lack of nuance around the whole discussion of how people use drugs and how people drink and things like that, where it's like either or.
I've met so many people who drink regularly who seem to have a pretty healthy, manageable life doing it.
Right.
I just wasn't one of those people.
On this journey to want to be an amazing man and creating world peace, when I picture heaven, bro, and I close my eyes, and I'm like, well, how would we treat animals in heaven? I'll be like, well, we'd stroke them, love them, feed them, play with them, make sure they were all right, and I'm going to bring heaven to earth on that level. What would we do in hell? Would rape them, slaughter them, cut them apart, burn them, kick them, punch them, hurt them.
This
steal
all right
from
off
them.
the dome. He's got a
And
lot
that's
of.
actually what we're doing on mass, mate. And I will
Saying
not
that
support
you would
industry,
rape
and I will not
animals
support
is-
that type of action. And I don't want to be that man. I want to be a heavenly man. I don't care what anything external can tell me about science anymore, because the truth is science has been hijacked. I can read one book on meat eating and I go, that's the truth.
Brother.
I can read one book on plant-based. I go, let's check in with the kingdom of heaven within, which is love, peace, Christ consciousness.
There it is.
What am I
Christ
gonna support?
consciousness.
And in
There
that
it
moment,
is.
the answer becomes obvious.
This is my thing that maybe I need to work through, but I also think there's validity to it.
Sure.
Like when I'm in Utah and I go to a 12-step meeting and everybody starts talking about God and higher power, and I can tell that they're all conceiving of it through the Mormon lens, I just go like, so you never really unpacked that, huh? Like, so you went from being raised Mormon to like leaving the church and doing drugs and alcohol for several years, however long it was. And when you came back to a 12-step program, the only concept of God you'd ever been taught was this Mormon concept. And rather than thinking maybe I should unpack that a little bit, you just went right back into it.
Right, yeah.
And to me, it's like, it's just sort of indicative of a lack of creative or critical thinking and like, you know,
Creative thinking too, probably
creative
a little bit.
thinking too. Because I see that and I just go, the guy like got sober and he just kind of sticks with whatever the paradigm he was raised with was, which is
Right. Well, and
Christ
I'm
consciousness.
curious if he was Christian or like really religious during his like party boy years or not. Like that would be fascinating for me to know. I mean, most likely, yes. But it does strike me as a thing of like he could have found a 12-step program and slipped down into the more religious aspects of it, and now intertwines the like fucking the gauge of Christ as his North Star, which like again, like it's so, that is such a strange like overlap too of like Christians and the spiritual Burning Man kind of rave lifestyle. I don't understand that.
You're right. Like this question of did he ever even leave it when he was doing drugs? Because I've also met those people. I've met people who their only issue, it seems like, with their faith that they were raised in is that, especially Mormonism is like very strict. Like it's a very sober religion. It's like no drugs, no alcohol, no coffee,
Right.
no, you know, like the coffee thing's weird. It doesn't make sense and nobody knows why. You can drink 3 Monster Energy drinks a day, but you can't have a cup of coffee.
It's the coffee beans actually that are the devil.
It's the beans where the devil is. But I also want to talk about this approach to veganism, because I do not begrudge anybody their ethical choice to be vegetarian or vegan. So when he's talking about like kindness to animals, again,
Right.
it's like this basic thing where I'm like, sure, dude. And I'm not going to argue with you on that. I'm not going to say, no, cruelty's better.
I've made the mistake of trying to argue with vegans in the past. I did a whole fucking other video on it to piggyback off like what you're saying is like, yeah, do no harm to animals. I wish, brother, but we do not live under a system that allows for the majority of people to live that lifestyle, which is a thing that most vegans, I'm sure him as well, miss. Like, what about fucking poor people, man? What about people who are unemployed? What about like there are just people that live in food deserts, you know?
I lived in a food desert for a while, and it was so interesting to actually experience it firsthand and be like, oh, to get anything that is actually good for me, I have to, it's like a 30-minute commute both ways. And so it's like an hour round trip to, you know, for me, and
then
I
you gotta cook it, and then
Right.
like
literally in this clip, he's comparing people who eat meat to evil people who would be in hell.
rapists.
To like being like, well, if you were gonna get into heaven, you would obviously be a vegan, but in hell it would be you know, cruel, mean, evil, mean-spirited, terrible people who deserve eternal punishment. So
Yeah, it comes down to almost like that there's something wrong with your character. It's like fuck the absolute off. Like
Yeah.
what? No.
Because I genuinely care about the health and wellness of your beautiful, miraculous body that you've been gifted with in this lifetime. The more you love your body, the more you treat with love and respect, the more it will thrive, the better you will feel, and the more positive vibes you will bring to this planet naturally. That's why I do Rise and Shine. Before
That's why
Rise
he
and
does
Shine,
it.
I used to run parties with alcohol, and let me tell you, I made a lot more money off them. But that's not the man I want to be now. I love money, and money's welcome into my life. As much money can flow into my life now as possible. Hear me now, God. But that is not my priority. My priority is driving positive change.
I don't believe you after saying that.
Well, the sales pitch is, guys, I promise I'm not just trying to get rich here. I promise.
I swear to God.
I swear to God, as a person who makes my living as a full-time content creator, I understand the hustle. Like, I understand you gotta find a way to make money. There's no way you can really win. Like, I'll do brand partnerships, and people in my audience, because I have a left-leaning progressive audience, will always find something wrong with whoever I've partnered. They'll like dig something up and they'll be like, did you know that this company did this in 2004? And I'm like, no, I didn't.
They asked me to shill their vibrators and gave me thousands of dollars.
Right.
No, I didn't fucking go back and look at how the fucking company started.
Yeah, and it's like, there's certain people I'm not going to partner with. I'm not going to do a brand partnership with like the NRA. I'm not going to, like,
or like an AI company. Like,
right, yeah,
I have those lines too.
Right.
Absolutely. But fucking, you want me to keep doing this, right?
Exactly.
I need to get paid, unfortunately, because capitalism.
But it's like the hard pitch here of being like, guys, I promise, I swear, But and then it's like, I bet you anything, this guy's making a very healthy yearly income.
Also, his cost of living is like a quarter probably of what it used to be living in the UK in fucking Bali, which again is a thing I have another problem with.
I've been going through a crisis of conscience the last few days because I did this thing where I made my paywalled content, I'm over on my Patreon, $1. And I still was like, am I like being like a scummy like grifter? And then I was like, no, like, it's the opposite. Like, I genuinely am like, I want anyone who wants to be able to support me to do it and not even feel it. The difference is there's this kind of person who's like, I will go to a person who I know is struggling to pay their rent, and I will try to sell them a $400 package of supplements, and I'll tell them these supplements will help you be the kind of person who can make enough money to afford your
They're
rent.
selling you magic beans, asshole.
Yeah, and I have people in my audience all the time go like, I honestly would love to give you $1 a month, and I can't afford that right now. And my response to them is, don't. By all means, do not.
Dude,
if you can't afford $1 a month, do not give me any money.
The well-being of like viewers and subscribers is much, much, much more important to me than getting an extra couple of dollars from one or two of them.
Absolutely. Please do not like take food off of your family's table so you can give me a couple extra bucks. Please.
What you eat is the biggest magic spell of all magic spells of how you impact your body.
We're
and
straight
the earth
up
itself
into
every time you do
magic
something.
now.
It's the only thing in this whole reality you choose to put from the external world into your internal world through intention and action.
Yeah, it's alchemy.
That becomes your whole system.
I love that he mimes chewing as if we don't know what he's talking about.
You know what you... And this is the thing, is where it's like these words, right? Spirituality, prayer, God, higher power, miracle, magic spell. I like...
Witchcraft.
I just feel like when you use these words, you need to be very clear what you mean, because it's a thing where, like, for most people in the world, when you talk about doing magic spells, they think you mean literal magic.
The argument could also be made that fucking heroin's magic.
Sure.
Are we going to apply it to that too? You dipshit. Like, what are we doing?
Actually, it's a great argument that, like, it is. I always felt this way about drugs, that I was like, it is actually crazy that you drop a pin drop of LSD in my brain, and my entire perception of how reality is set up changes. Yeah. And that's crazy. Like, that's
arguably more magical than antioxidants.
Sure.
What has an antioxidant ever done for me that I've noticed in my day? Like, straight up, like,
have you ever taken Molly? Have you ever, like, shot up heroin and seen what that does to your system?
Even what was the stuff that, like, the weed alternative that would get you high for like 30 seconds?
Oh yeah.
What
Oh
was
God,
that?
salvia.
Salvia, bro?
Salvia
you want a
is
trip?
crazy.
It's insane.
It's the craziest.
I did it once and was like, I went to another dimension
100%.
actually.
Yep. Salvia is the craziest drug I've ever taken, and I've taken a lot of drugs. And salvia was legal. You could like order it online, and they would like mail
I
it.
went to a gas station
Yeah.
in Chico where I lived like
It's-
almost 20 years ago and did it.
My friends and I all did it, and we took turns doing it one at a time, and then watching the person who was doing it to make sure that they did, But like, yeah, you.
They didn't jump out a window.
Yeah, exactly. You immediately get transported to another realm of existence, another plane, like dimension. And I don't know if it was the same for you, but for me, I immediately forgot that I had just done drugs. So all of a sudden, I just existed in this other plane of existence, and I was like, well, I guess I've always been here.
And that's what I do now. Is I believe one of our natural responsibilities for this glorious machine called the body we've been blessed with is to treat it with love and respect, and it can grow like a tree towards the light a little bit every day. And you can either get healthier
Again, so
every day,
basic.
which requires
So
discipline.
basic.
Or you can get unhealthier every day. And I realized up until the age of 30, I was getting unhealthier every day.
There's no plateauing.
And on that journey of going downwards, slowly but surely, every day for 30 years, ultimately, mate. But if you're going downwards energetically, I feel like...
What does that mean? What do you
the
mean?
lower frequency moments of time lie here, and I'm here, and I'm getting unhealthier and healthier. And there's just a moment of time that's magnetically going to be attracted and be in my body.
We're talking about fucking
And
magnets,
that's how
dude.
I believe you can heal anything, mate.
I just want to say really quickly that like as a person who has like experience where I experienced like 15 straight years of like daily suicidal ideation. It's always interesting to me when there's like someone like this, and I hear this story a lot where they're like, the first time I ever thought about hurting myself, I was like, whoa, something.
Well, I didn't know I could think like that.
Something is off, and I'm like, I'm glad you recognized it early. That's great. I'm glad, but it's also like, buddy, like it gets a lot darker than that. I promise you. But yeah, this idea that's just like, again, it's so basic of like you're getting a little bit healthier or not healthier, and it's like, well, actually, we're all just going in one direction. Like you can.
Right.
Like you are going to die.
Well, and like fucking again, it's the language of like the frequencies of the magnetic poles that were drawing me to this place. Like it's like, what are you saying? What are we saying? Words need to mean something.
If you're unhealthy and you've got an illness in your body called depression or cancer or diabetes, if you're getting a little bit healthier every day, there's just a moment of time you get healthier than that vibration and it drops away. So what excites me now as a man, mate, is I'm saying, well, that's an expansive upward spiral journey. And there's no cut-off point to a body with infinite potential. So where does this upward...
Doesn't have infinite
yes, there
potential.
is.
Also,
No, there is a cutoff point. I promise you.
You will die.
You will die. I promise you.
Isn't that what Trump thinks? That there's like a finite amount of, or I guess it's the opposite of what Donald Trump thinks about the human body, right?
I don't know.
There was like a thing where he was talking about like how he doesn't exercise because he thinks there's a finite amount of energy the human body has, and that if he worked out, he would die sooner.
Oh, right. That's my favorite thing that Trump's ever said. I agree with that. That's why I don't exercise. That's what, yeah. I agree
He's
with
actually
that.
the one thing he's right about.
Yeah, it's the one thing he's right about is that like you actually shouldn't work out because you're going to waste your life energy and you need to keep your life energy.
It's like every hot dog you eat is like, what, a year off your life?
Yeah. Every
it's
time
the
you
same
work
sort of-
out, it's like 10 years off your life. It takes a lot more energy. This clip kind of encapsulates the totality of everything we've been talking about, where it starts off with something that is basic enough. That's like, your body's getting a little bit less healthy every single day. But and it's like basic enough concept. But then this concept of you can reverse that and get a little bit more healthy every day with infinite potential. It's like, that's complete bullshit and nonsense. That's absolutely nothing.
I think that's also a big underlying theme across all of these things and these people like him, where it's like, but what do we really know, man? It's all energy and vibes and intangible, man. Just take my word for it.
Well, yeah, and then also this idea of being like, well, every day you're either getting a little bit less healthy or a little bit more healthy. And I realized when I was 30, I was getting less healthy, and now I'm going up, and it's like, well, okay, realistically, just from a scientific perspective, like this guy looks like he's what, 45?
I think he's 40. I think he's in his early 40s.
His body still has the signs of natural aging on it, because of course it does. And so it's like, well, your body, we all live in decaying vessels that are breaking down every single day. And you can have habits that either help to counteract that decaying process and make it a little bit more bearable, or habits that help the decaying process and help it happen faster. But
you're either bringing the flight in on a nice soft landing, or you're crashing it into a mountain.
But like either way,
it's coming down.
It's coming down.
And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to try and build world peace.
I'm going to do it. I'm the one to do it.
I've never considered world peace before. I felt and seen the darkest side of alcohol. It's a black magic spell. That's why I'm looking to address it. I've done the worst things in my life as a man.
That guy's face.
I know, his face is crazy.
With the launch of AI, it can work now.
God,
imagine if I found a magic lamp on this beach and I rubbed it and the genie came out. And I definitely knew, wait, that's a genie, that. And the genie says, right, you've got one wish, what do you want to be?
He met a genie?
Wait, what?
Yo,
what? Did he just say that AI was a genie?
I didn't watch that whole clip. That's the first time I've watched that whole thing all the way through.
You know that like gif of Lenny on The Simpsons, and he's watching and he's like, that's that guy, the guy interviewing him, like, wow, yeah.
Oh, that was a roller coaster, dude.
Yeah, I just figured I'm just going to do world peace. Oh, cool. All right, I guess hey, don't worry, everybody. I guess he's on it.
Hard cut to AI is a magic genie.
You know, I'm sure there are a lot of people who find guys like this harmless enough that they're just like, oh, you know, at the end of the day, there are worse people. Like Andrew Tate's worse than this guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know? We need to let's say the ranking for this guy is like not even the top 10. I don't think.
Yeah, when it comes to like handsome manosphere dudes that do podcasts and teach other people how to like get their best life, they get so much worse than this guy. Where it's problematic is just in this idea of like, he's got all the most basic concepts locked down, and but he clearly hasn't done the work to unpack the language around this stuff, around like when you talk about meditation and prayer and magic and miracles, he hasn't done the intellectual work in a way that doesn't trigger people's religious trauma, that is expansive and that includes people who don't believe in those things. And like he hasn't actually done the work to unpack those concepts inside of himself. He still just works with this framework that like we live in a magic fantasy world where like, you know, drugs and alcohol are like evil magic and healthy food is good magic.
I also think that he's like co-opted some of the more, because like a lot of the spiritual folks, like the Burning Man people, like I've referenced in earlier, right? They're taking a lot of that stuff from things like Buddhism and like Eastern religions and cultures, and he's co-opting a lot of that stuff while also still being clearly a Christian. He says he is. So he's taking the aesthetics of those other cultures that some people in like, you know, that go to raves and go to Burning Man and they are practicing Buddhist or whatever, right? Like there are people who do actually believe those things. Anth does not believe or fully understand them. He's taking all the cool aspects that add to the performative nature of all of this shit that he's doing and slapping on top of what is deep down anti-science, anti-critical thought, and very Christian underneath everything. Mm-hmm. And that's what's super, super gross to me.
I just want to know more from this guy. Like when he says all this stuff, I want to be like, can you define what you mean for your audience when you talk about miracles? Can you define what you mean when you talk about magic spells? Can you define what you mean when you talk about genies?
Without giving me an example, define it.
I just think when I use the language, I always try to make sure people understand that when if I bring up prayer, if I bring up God, if I bring up anything like that, I always want to make sure people understand. I'm like, I identify as an atheist, and what I mean when I say that word is this. And I try to offer them not because I'm trying to sell them on it, but just so that they understand what I'm talking about when I say
Right.
it.
That's all I had to show you. I appreciate you offering your insight and your commentary and your critique. And let's do this again sometime.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I really, this was a lot of fun. It was like, yeah, I'll do it again anytime.
Also, plug. What are all your ats?
Austin Archer, you can find
Where
me.
can people find you?
Yeah, on all the places. Austin Archer. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. YourPal_Austin. I'm really mean to people on Threads. That's where that's where you'll find me being at my meanest. And Patreon.com/Austin Archer if you want to sign up for $1.
$1.
Yeah, so that's it.
All right. Thank you, Austin, so much for being on the channel. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Harland.